call to order this meeting of the Franklin Municipal Planning Commission for March the 28th, 2024. We'll start off with roll call. Commissioner Allen,
Present.
Commissioner Franks. Commissioner Franks is absent. Commissioner Harrison is absent. Commissioner Lindsay is present. Commissioner Mann.
Present.
Commissioner McLemore is not present. Commissioner Orr.
Present.
Alderman Peterson.
Here.
And Commissioner Williamson.
Present.
Great, thank you. The next item on our agenda is to address citizen comments. This is a time in our meeting that's open for citizens to be heard on any issue or concern. If you'd like to speak on a specific item on the agenda, we ask that you wait until the citizen comment period comes up for that item. For each item, as we introduce those, there'll be an opportunity that I announce. So if you'd like to make a comment, if you anticipate wanting to make a comment, please fill out one of the speaker cards on the little table by the column and give it to Amy, give it to one of our staff members. And then when I call you up at that time, you'll come to the microphone and state your name and address, and then we ask you to limit your comments to 2 minutes. So if you've been practicing a 10-minute speech, I'm going to cut you off early. So okay. So are there any citizens that wish to speak to an item now that's maybe not one of the items that's not on the agenda? Anyone? Seeing none, we'll proceed to the approval of minutes. This is a consideration of approval of the February 22nd, 2024 Franklin Municipal Planning Commission minutes. Is there a motion to approve those minutes?
Move for approval.
We have a motion for approval by Commissioner Orr
Second.
and a second by Commissioner Williamson. Is there any discussion or questions or comments or corrections to the minutes?
I wasn't present last month, so I'll abstain.
Okay. All right. Seeing none, then we'll proceed with a roll call vote. Commissioner Allen,
Aye.
Commissioner Lindsay votes aye. Commissioner Mann will be
Abstain.
recusing himself. Commissioner McLemore is absent. Commissioner Orr,
Aye.
Alderman Peterson,
Yes.
and Commissioner Williamson.
Aye.
That motion passes. The minutes are approved. Are there any staff comments or announcements?
Yes, I have one. Andrew mentioned it earlier at the Joint Conceptual Workshop, but as most of you know, the update to Envision Franklin was tracking to be heard at the April 25th Planning Commission meeting. Unfortunately, the state required 30-day public notice for the April 25th public hearing of the Envision Franklin update was sent to the Herald, but inadvertently not included in the March 21st edition. As a result, the update to Envision Franklin is now scheduled to be heard by the Planning Commission at its May 23rd meeting in order to achieve a new 30-day notice. Staff is emailing notification of the new date to our large project distribution list, but we also wanted to go ahead and make you all aware. So be ready for May.
Right. Thank you, Amy. Any other announcements? Seeing none. Also, the next item is for consideration of approval of the consent agenda for tonight. And right now, that consent agenda consists of items 3 through 20 and item number 25 on the consent agenda. Does anybody wish to pull an item from the consent agenda?
I'm not going to.
Okay. Anyone else? So we've got the consent agenda as published, items 3 through 20, and item 25. Is there a motion for approval on the consent agenda?
I move for approval of the consent agenda.
Second.
So we have a proper motion for approval of the consent agenda made by Commissioner Allen, seconded by Commissioner Orr. By roll call vote, Commissioner Allen,
Aye.
Commissioner Lindsay votes aye. Commissioner Mann,
Yes.
Commissioner Orr,
Aye.
Alderman Peterson,
Yes.
and Commissioner Williamson.
Aye.
That motion passes for the passing of the consent agenda. The next item is item number 21. Item number 21 is the consideration of ordinance 2024-10, an ordinance to rezone 2.90 acres from Regional Commerce 6, RC6 District, to planned as PD 65.4, 3,607 District for the property located north of Cool Springs Boulevard and east of Mac Hatcher Memorial Parkway at 101 Cool Springs Boulevard. This is called the Caroline PUD subdivision. We'll go to staff presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Vision Franklin places this property at the corner of Cool Springs Boulevard and Mac Hatcher Parkway and the Regional Commerce Design Concept. The proposed development meets the minimum recommendations of Envision Franklin by providing a mix of uses that include commercial and multifamily residential, although the amount of activated ground for commercial use is minimal, similar to those in developments approved nearby. The site layout provides an urban feel with building-lined streets, creating a walkable development, and provides architecture that fits in with the style of the corridor. And the regional commerce design concept supports a mix of uses, and the uses proposed are supported within that design concept. As a project consideration, a similar proposal at this location went before the Planning Commission at the June meeting of last year, where it was recommended for disapproval to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen due to the traffic impact study. The applicant then withdrew the applications for rezoning and the development plan after the first reading of BOMA. Since then, our engineering department has revised their traffic review standards for the area, and the proposal as submitted can be supported by staff. So staff recommends approval of ordinance 2024-10. Happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
I don't think the mic's working. I think it was on, I don't think it's working.
So does anyone from the public wish to speak to this item? Seeing none, I'll turn it over to the applicant for a presentation.
Hi, Commissioner. Happy Easter. My name is Greg Gamble, and I'm representing the development team tonight on this proposal for development of the Caroline, located at the corner of Mac Hatcher Parkway and Cool Springs Boulevard. I know this is the rezoning, but because it's tied to a development plan, would you mind if I walked you through the master plan now? And I've got a couple of comments to add when we get to the development plan.
That's fine.
Okay, thank you. This development proposal recognizes a lot of the presentation that we gave to you several months ago regarding the mass, form, and location of the building that's proposed. Here in the top left corner, here right at the intersection of Mac Hatcher and Cool Springs Boulevard is the Caroline. It is a four-sided architecture building that wraps around an interior swimming pool courtyard area. There are two levels of parking that are located below this building on this corner. From Mac Hatcher, you see a three-story elevation. That's what's happening on this corner here at the intersection. It's 3 stories tall. Along the backside here, then we transition up to a 4th story. So when you get to this 6-story building that is the Haven at Cool Springs Boulevard, you have a transition of architecture. Now, the high point along Cool Springs Boulevard is this intersection. So it's dropping down in elevation as you're moving this way on Cool Springs Boulevard back into Cool Springs. But we want to transition this architecture from 3 stories, 4 stories, 6 stories. You have 4 stories at Legends View, and then you have NHC. So you've got a rhythm of architecture that's taking place as you're going down the street, you're going down Cool Springs Boulevard. In this master plan, we have 22 or 12% of the total number of apartments that are being proposed are going to be studio apartments. That's new from the last proposal that you reviewed. We want to introduce a greater mix, a greater economic mix, greater opportunity for residents to be able to afford and rent here in this development. We also have 1-bedroom and 2-bedroom apartments with a total of 199. We have 10,000 square feet of the total building that is allocated just for amenities. That's the clubhouse, the fitness club, that's the resident spaces. But we also have 3,700 square feet that's dedicated to commercial. Now that commercial use, we would like to program it so that it really truly becomes an amenity for the residents. The elevation along Mac Hatcher Parkway is a 3-story elevation. You can see this is completely new architecture from what we presented to you before. This architecture incorporates details that are really true to Franklin, details in architecture that resonate a lot more with our traditional historic architecture, but it's also designed in a way where it is more of a collection of building elevations to break up the scale, to break up the massing. This is this 3-story portion here along Mac Hatcher Parkway, and this is the hard corner. This is the fitness club down on the ground level with outdoor open space areas for residents, kind of an outdoor residential lounge down on the ground level. This is the entrance as you're coming into the medical office. At this entrance here, this is where our 3,700 square foot commercial use is going to be. So we have redesigned the plan so that that commercial use is really at the pedestrian sidewalk level here along Cool Springs Boulevard to activate this space. We see this if it's a wine bar, sundry shop, something that really kind of caters to a lot of the new residential that has been programmed and planned along Cool Springs Boulevard. So we see this as an exciting amenity, but also an excellent opportunity for a future business owner here in Cool Springs. I really appreciate the fact that we were able to talk about the development review from 2003 tonight. You heard a lot of great information about what's approved, what's in queue, what's being planned. We have 38,907 existing homes that are built today in Franklin with a population of about 90,000. What you didn't hear, though, is that we have approximately 70,000 people that commute into Franklin every day to work. These are residents that live in Murray County. They live in Williamson County. They live in Davidson County. That is a pretty significant increase of population. That's our daytime workforce that's here in our Cool Springs area. What you didn't hear is that in Spring Hill, Tennessee, they have over 3,000 homes that are approved today, not yet constructed. Homes in Spring Hill today go on the market at around $800,000, $850,000. What you didn't hear was that in Columbia, Tennessee, there are approximately 6,800 homes that are approved but not yet built. Homes in Columbia, Tennessee today are selling between $550,000 and $650,000 a piece. That's a 20-minute drive from downtown Columbia to Dave Ramsey's office. You also didn't hear that over 2,200 homes are currently approved in Nolensville, but not yet built. Those are homes that start at $1 million a piece and go up. In Franklin, Tennessee today, our average new home sales $1 million a piece. We have a real issue regarding housing in Williamson County in Middle Tennessee, and we know that. We know that there's an appetite for more single-family homes. If we were able to build more single-family homes, we would build those more single-family homes. We have infrastructure issues that you have heard in your joint conceptual workshops, talking about how we're going to fund new roads, how we're going to pay for new infrastructure expansions. These are real issues. The availability of for-rent apartments in Cool Springs allows someone to live within close proximity to where they work. It's not for everyone. Apartments in Cool Springs do not cater to every single person. They do cater to a significant portion of our population. You will not be able to solve housing for 70,000 people that commute into Cool Springs to work every day. And we're not trying to do that either. But by providing multifamily apartment in the right location, where the infrastructure is available and where it can be supported is the right and smart thing to do. Right now on Mac Hatcher Parkway, there are a total of 23,100 average daily trips that have been calculated. The Caroline contributes 234 average daily trips to that number. That's an increase of 0.78%. On Cool Springs Boulevard today, the existing traffic, there's a total of 17,420 average daily trips on Cool Springs Boulevard. The Caroline contributes 545 trips to that, an increase of 2.1%. The Caroline does not solve the housing problem. It does not solve the traffic demands, but it's not exacerbating the traffic issues in this area either. The Caroline does is it complements the uses that are approved on Cool Springs Boulevard. It's a part of a bigger master plan. When we start talking about regional commerce, mixed use, providing housing that's attainable within a walkable distance to where jobs are and where businesses are created, it further improves and increases that relationship that we need between housing, affordable housing, attainable housing, and those businesses in the Cool Springs area. Happy to answer any questions. I know this is the rezoning part. I've got a little bit more to add when we get to the development plan. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Greg. Is there a motion on this item?
Move for an approval of recommendation to the board and mayor and alderman.
So we have a proper motion for recommendation of approval to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen by Commissioner Orr. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
We have a second by Commissioner Mann. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, by roll call vote, Commissioner Allen,
Aye.
Commissioner Lindsay votes aye, Commissioner Mann,
Yes.
Commissioner Orr,
Aye.
Alderman Peterson,
Yes.
and Commissioner Williamson.
Aye.
The motion passes. Item number 22 now for the development plan. This is consideration of Resolution 2024-13, a resolution approving a development plan for the Caroline PUD subdivision for the property located north of Cool Springs Boulevard and east of Mac Hatcher Memorial Parkway at 101 Cool Springs Boulevard. Staff presentation?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Can you hear that better? Is that working better? Microphone?
I can hear you fine. It just looked like others were struggling, so. I
Oh,
didn't think
okay,
it was
sure.
working. Sorry.
The Caroline PUD subdivision is approximately 3 acres in size and is located at 101 Cool Springs Boulevard. The proposed development consists of 190 multifamily residential units and 3,607 square feet of commercial space. Envision Franklin places this property in the regional commerce design concept, which states that the area contains high-intensity activity centers that attract large numbers of people and employers from both within and outside the city. These areas include major employment and revenue generators that are valuable community resources. The proposed development meets the recommendations of Envision Franklin by providing a mix of uses that include commercial and multifamily residential, although the amount of activated ground floor commercial use is minimal, similar to those approved in nearby developments. The site layout provides an urban feel with building-lined streets, creating a walkable development, and provides architecture that fits in with the style of the corridor. The regional commerce design concept supports a mix of uses, and the uses proposed are supported within this design concept. Staff recommends approval with conditions of Resolution 2024-13 to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen. Happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone from the public that would like to speak to this item? Seeing none, we'll go back to the applicant. Greg?
Hi, again, my name is Greg Gamble, representing our development team tonight. And our team was fortunate to have Jay Sheridan as a part of our team who's helping us with really the branding of where this is headed. And we really applauded him with the idea of naming this development after the matriarch of the Cross family. The Cross family was so influential in the development of Cool Springs. This was a part of property that they owned. We wanted to pay tribute to that, and the Caroline is certainly achieving those goals. There are 3 off-site road improvements that are a part of the condition of approval, and I'd like to point those out to you just real quick. There are shoulder improvements that are going to be required here as that lane that comes off of Cool Springs Boulevard. This is the merge lane that merges into Mac Hatcher Parkway. There are some improvements that have been identified there that need to be accomplished when the Caroline is developed. This intersection here is a full intersection today. The Haven has a responsibility to make this entrance a right in, right out only. What is proposed or contemplated for this is a left in only, but you won't be able to travel across the street to make a left turn headed onto Mac Hatcher Parkway from this particular intersection. You'll have to go up to the light and work your way around. And this is a safety consideration, and it has to do with the vehicles that are queuing onto Mac Hatcher Parkway to make that turn to go back toward 96. So that would be an improvement that would be required. And then lastly, this developer is required to coordinate with these 2 developers. Whoever develops first has to construct this drive from the signalized intersection back to the Aspen Grove entrance. Now, if Haven goes first, they've got to build it. If Legends Views goes first, they have to build it. If Caroline goes first, they have to build it. So all 3 of these development groups are going to need to work together to kind of figure this out. Those communications have already been in place. The plat that is associated with Haven has already been before the Planning Commission. That plat showed this drive and this access easement on it. That plat was approved. I'm not sure that it's been recorded yet, but when you record a plat, you have to post all the bonds. So they're probably waiting to make sure that they've got everything in place before they do that. My point is that the conversations are being had, everyone's aware of this requirement, but that burden is also put on this development as well. So this is not a standalone. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
So because you just talked about that item, so it looks like there's good coordination that is necessitated, given that all 3 of those structures will be starting in relative close proximity to each other
I
and
believe so, yes. And
maintaining clearance for
Jimmy Wiseman has
construction.
been instrumental in the coordination of that. He may be able to speak to that as well.
Yes, and we met, this has been probably pre-COVID, where we started talking about this, and all of the property owners were made aware of this condition, so, and everyone, ultimately, we got everyone on board, so whoever goes first gets to build it is the way it's going to work.
Okay, great, thank you.
And just for clarification, that connection and access to the future light, all of those buildings, including the existing office building that's, back there now, they'll all be able to access that light?
That's right.
Okay,
Public access easement. Yeah,
Great.
for sure. Thank you.
Other comments, questions? Well, let me go for a motion first. Is there a motion on this item then?
Go ahead.
I move for approval
Recommendation of approval to the
with
Board of Mayor and Alderman?
conditions. I'm sorry.
Okay, recommendation to the Board of Mayor and
Yes,
Alderman with
sorry.
conditions.
Move for approval to the Board of Mayor and Alderman with conditions.
Second.
We have a proper second by Commissioner Orr. Is there any further discussion on this item?
I had a question for Greg and Jimmy. Can you walk the left in, or I'm sorry, preventing the crossover across and turning lefts? I was trying to identify that in my materials, and it was just having issues. So you you won't be able to turn left on the Cool Springs Boulevard at all?
From this intersection here.
Yes.
That's
so,
correct.
So you won't be able to turn left on Cool Springs at
Not
all?
going this direction.
Okay.
So if you've been to Whole Foods on Mallory and you're going right past the high school, you can turn left and go into the parking lot there at Whole Foods. But if you're at Whole Foods and you're coming out, you can only make a right turn.
Yep.
You can't go all the way across and make a left going up. And so that's a part of the safety consideration that staff wants
It's the
addressed.
same idea. Okay.
And I recall that the median between lanes, the median will be extended essentially to cut off
That's right.
that attempt to turn left there.
That's right.
So it'll extend that, which lengthens the turning queue for cars coming up Cool Springs to turn left on McAdams.
Much longer, almost doubles it.
Okay. That's what I wanted to see, so I wanted to make sure I was hearing that correctly.
That's exactly right.
Because that's actually also somewhat of a blind turn. As you're coming, what is that, southeast on that, so
Right.
southwest. Okay, that's all, that's the question I had.
Okay. Other questions, comments? Seeing none, we'll go by roll call vote. Commissioner Allen?
Aye.
Commissioner Lindsay votes aye. Commissioner Mann?
Yes?
Commissioner Orr?
Aye.
Alderman Peterson?
Yes.
And Commissioner Williamson?
Aye.
That motion passes unanimously. Okay, thank you, Greg. The next item on our agenda tonight is item number 23. This is the consideration of ordinance 2024-04, an ordinance to rezone 21.29 acres from Regional Commerce 12, RC12 district, to planned PD 315,014, 244 district for the property located at the northwest corner of the intersection of Cool Springs Boulevard and Carruthers Parkway, that's being the Meridian South PUD subdivision. So this is an item to rezone, and we have a related item coming up after this to approve a development plan. So we'll go to staff presentation.
Thank you, Chair. The applicant is requesting to rezone the property from Regional Commerce 12 RC 12 District to Plan District PD 315,014 and 244 to accommodate the proposed development plan. The development plan has been submitted concurrently. Envision Franklin places this property in the regional commerce design concept, and the rezoning meets the goals of Envision Franklin. Staff recommends that the Planning Commission recommend to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen to approve ordinance 2024-04. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone from the public wish to speak to this item tonight? Seeing none, we'll go to the applicant.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the Planning Commission. My name is Gary Vogan with Kaiser Vogan Design. Speaking on behalf of our client, Boyle Development, we are in agreement with all staff conditions of approval and respectfully request your approval. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is there a motion on this item?
Move for approval, recommendation to Board of Mayor and Aldermen.
I'll second.
So we have a motion by Commissioner Mann and a second by Commissioner Williamson. And this is a motion to recommend approval to Board of Mayor and Aldermen. Is there any discussion on this item? Seeing none, we'll go by roll call vote. Commissioner Allen?
Aye.
Commissioner Lindsay votes aye. Commissioner Mann?
Yes.
Commissioner Orr?
Aye.
Alderman Peterson?
Yes.
And Commissioner Williamson?
Aye.
And that motion passes. Okay, item number 24 is a consideration of Resolution 2024-03, a resolution approving a development plan for Meridian South PUD subdivision with 6 modifications of development standards for both signs and parking. for the property located at the northwest corner of the intersection of Cool Springs Boulevard and Carruthers Parkway, located at 501, 601, and 1000 Corporate Center Drive. We'll go to staff presentation.
Thank you. This one is a little bit longer, so bear with me. You guys were given a little cheat sheet about modifications of standards, so when I get to that, you guys might want to just refer to it. The applicant has submitted a development plan for Meridian South PUD subdivision. It is a multi-phased commercial development located on 3 lots. The applicant is proposing 315,014 square feet of existing and proposed commercial space, 244 existing hotel keys, and 6 MOS requests for a site that's composed of 21.29 acres. Staff supports the goal of the proposed sign package, which is 5 out of the 6 MOS requests, that helps to add pedestrian-oriented features, and the explanation of their package meets the goals of Envision Franklin. With that said, the goals described could be achieved with the City of Franklin's current sign ordinance. MOS number 1. They're requesting to allow for irregular shaped signage. Irregularly shaped sign MOS requests have a precedent of being approved when related to the element that when related to an element that is representative of the project. So staff is recommending approval of MOS number 1. MOS number 2, requesting to allow the addition of 4 monument signs and the height increase to 16 feet, 15 feet, 14 feet, and 12 feet for the proposed monument signs, with up to 4 sides with a maximum sign area of 325 square feet per side. From a dashboard survey of surrounding businesses, staff could not identify any monument signs in the area that deviated significantly from the current height requirement of 6 feet, except for the example identified in the applicant's submittal package. This sign is also along, this sign is along Cool Springs Boulevard, directly south of the proposed development. Even in this taller sign, the vertical, more stylized portion of the sign is only approximately 12 feet tall, which is less overall height than the applicant is proposing at 15 feet and 16 feet for the stylized portion of their proposed monument signs. Staff recommends disapproval of MOS number 2. If it is the desire of the FMPC and BOMA to approve this request, then staff advises that the MOS allow for the quantity deviation and height deviation for the signs internal to the site, but require that the signs on the periphery meet the requirements for sign area, height, and additional standards for monument signs within the ordinance. MOS number 3. Requesting to allow 9 flag signs and to add vinyl and painted aluminum with graphic perforation as an allowed material. Staff is not concerned with the proposed flag quantity due to its allowance based on number of lots. The proposal to add painted aluminum with graphic perforation as an additional material meets the intent of the allowed materials within the zoning ordinance requiring a durable material. Staff recommends approval of MOS number 3. MOS number 4. Requesting to allow 8 convenience signs that are a maximum of 12 feet in height and may have a maximum of 19 square feet per side with internal illumination. Staff does not have concerns about the additional quantity of signs, as all the proposed signs are internal to the site and not seen from Cool Springs Boulevard or Carruthers Parkway. The applicant has not provided sufficient information as to why the additional height, size, and internal illumination of signs is necessary for the success of the development or for the goals of meeting the wayfinding needs of its patrons. Staff recommends disapproval of MOS number 4. If it is the desire of FMPC and BOMA to approve this request, the staff advises that the MOS allow for the quantity deviation and the sign area, but require that the signs meet the requirements for sign height and additional standards for convenience signs within the ordinance. We're almost there. MOS number 5, requesting to allow a maximum of 2 freestanding directory signs with a maximum of 21 square feet and 9 feet in height. In addition, the structure shall not exceed a maximum of 42 square feet and shall have internal illumination and electronic display. The proposed MOS is requesting 2 signs that are referred to as directory signs, but per our ordinance, they are in every way, location, height and area, and lighting opposite of the requirements for a directory sign. When reviewing their request for MOS number 5, the staff was unable to find justification for why there was a need to modify every standard laid out for directory signs. Staff recommends disapproval of MOS number 5. MOS number 6, requesting a reduction in the base rate parking for the uses of restaurant, retail, and hotel. This proposed modification of standard request is supported by shared parking, national studies, and the study of this site as it stands today. Staff recommends approval of MOS number 6. Staff recommends that the Planning Commission recommend to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen to approve Resolution 2024-03 with conditions. Thank you.
Okay, we'll do this the way we normally do requests for modifications of standards. So we'll start with a main motion.
We need to get the applicant.
I'm sorry? Applicant. Was there anyone from the public that wishes to speak to this item? Seeing none, Gary, please proceed.
Thought you forgot about me. Good evening, my name is Gary Vogt, Kaiser Vogt Design, speaking on behalf of our client, Boyle Investment. Thank you, Chelsea, for going through that. I know this is a series of MOSs, so we're going to do a brief presentation of the signage to give you some clarity on what we're asking for. I'm going to speak a little bit and ask my colleague Paul to come up here and talk about some of the things we're asking for, but if you just allow me just a few minutes to speak about this in general. As you know, we've had some joint conceptual workshop regarding this and garnered your feedback from this board and Bowman planning staff. We have taken this feedback and have worked with planning staff, Chelsea and Amy in particular, thank you, and I'd like to present that to you tonight. It has been a collaborative effort, obviously. We're in agreement with all staff conditions of approval, except we'd like to discuss the recommendations of disapproval for items MOS 2, 4, and 5, as Chelsea had mentioned. With this application, we are requesting the addition of 2 retail buildings to this campus to activate Meridian South. With this MOS to signage and parking, our client, Boyle, is activating this campus based on the success of their very other successful project, McEwen Town Center. So there's lessons learned here. Based on our feedback together on this plan, it would be safe to say that the addition of the 2 retail buildings and associated amenities along with the shared parking are pretty straightforward with this campus because it is RC12. And it's a straightforward process, but because we're asking for MOSs on signage and the parking, that triggers us to go to a PD because we are not RC12. It will be relatively straightforward. As I mentioned, we'll get into the details of the signage, but as you've heard in our initial presentations, entry signage, wayfinding, directional signage, as well as artistic pieces and lighting elements integrate the campus for tenants and visitors in a thoughtful, harmonious way that ties the project together visually and provides direction. Much like Franklin Public Arts Commission that I am part of, design is in the eye of the beholder. But we are applying the best practice design standards for these elements in terms of signage and wayfinding. With that in mind, the proposed signage and wayfinding elements do not quite fit in the box of every signage ordinance that we have and prescribed, or is not identified in the zoning ordinance. I can remember when the Cool Springs signage was done back in the day, that signage also did not fit the mold at that time, and they had to request a modification or an element to bring that type signage. But I think in context, it fits well in the overall Cool Springs development. And we refer to that signage in our package as well. Also, we've had some city vision trips with some of you with the Planning Commission, planning staff who looked at signage. It evolves over time. Mixed-use projects are very crucial in terms of signage, wayfinding, allowing visitors, tenants to find their way through a mixed-use project is very critical. With that in mind, we like to focus on the MOSs 2, 4, and 5. Number 2 is quantity and height. We respectfully request approval of this MOS number 2, but wish to have an open discussion with you as, if it comes down to it, we are open to staff's suggestion, as she advised Chelsea in that request. Again, with number 4, convenience signs, we would like to respectfully request approval of that, but also open the discussion if it came down to it. We're willing to work with her advisory comment on that as well. We just don't want to lose everything. We'd like to work with you on that process. Number 5, freestanding directional signs. Again, we'd like to request your approval of that. And I'd like to have Paul Bowman, my colleague here, to walk through these elements specifically to talk about the design elements. But also, as you get into the voting motion of these discussions, please ask us for any questions, because I know if anything comes up, we'd be happy to answer those questions. So Paul, if you don't mind, and Chelsea, if you can pull up that presentation, that would be great. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you all.
We can work together. Good evening. My name is Paul Bowman, and I represent Cooper Carey, the design firm who's working on the environmental graphics, the branding, and the wayfinding for this project. If you'll go to sheet CO2, I wanted to point out that the goal of the signage and wayfinding for this project is part of an overall rebrand. And so what you see on the map on the right-hand side with the stars are major destinations that are on the north side of the property. What we're doing on the south side is we're trying to connect the north and the south. And so those stars, those major destinations, are places like Tupelo Honey Cafe, new parklets, new buildings that are being built. So the directional signage that we're incorporating on the south side is connecting back to those things on the north. In addition, we're trying to integrate the new project branding throughout in artful ways that further the goals of Envision Franklin. And so that's what we highlighted on the left side of this exhibit. So you'll get a CO4. I want to talk briefly about the modifications specifically and give you some visual context for those. So modification number 2 is for the monument signs. As was stated before, we've got 4 different monument signs, but some of these are very non-traditional monuments in terms of what the sign ordinance calculates. You'll see on the bottom right corner there's an internally illuminated column that has no messaging on it. And the bottom left corner is more of a sculptural element. So the top 2 on that page are really more traditional monument signs, and those monuments, as far as the signage area, are more within what this sign ordinance allows. But our goals for these are to really increase the project visibility, and so that's why we're incorporating sort of this artful sculptural interpretation of what the brand is. Because of the way the code is written, we have to draw a box around that and calculate the square footage for that whole area. But as you can see, the structure is open. It's not a solid piece that really takes up that amount of square footage. So in addition to increasing the project visibility, these are integral in increasing the legibility and visibility for vehicles. So both Carruthers Parkway and Cool Springs Boulevard are multi-lane roadways. So from 9 lanes, including the turn lanes on Cool Springs, to 4 lanes on Carruthers. When we're looking at the amount of time at 40 miles per hour that it takes people to recognize the information, this extra size allows the project to be more visible. There's an existing monument now that has 7 tenants on it. To stay within the size of the current ordinance, those tenants have a type height that is smaller than a street sign. And because of the property line setback from the road, it makes it more difficult to see. So these improvements will allow the project to be more visible. If you will go to C20, please. Modification number 4 is about convenience signs. And so for the vehicular and pedestrian directionals that we are proposing, the only category in the sign ordinance is convenience signs. So what you heard tonight was that staff does recommend approval for these, except for the height. And I wanted to point out that the height is really to maintain readability for a project of this size and scale. And in order for us to have fewer signs, we have to create a breadcrumb trail that people can see from a distance. In addition to that, it's to maintain the national standards that are set by DOT, both state and federal, and also ADA for clearance guidelines. So you'll see in the diagram at the top, this shows a sign family for a typical project of this size. Regulatory signs are required by DOT that the bottom of the panel is at 7 feet off the ground. So typically, all of the directional signage, all the signage for the project is based off that for a project of this size. The ADA also requires that a panel, if it's over a walkway, has to be 6'8" off the ground. So again, we're trying to maintain that scale and height for the project. And then if you'll go to CO26. This is modification number 5. This is for the directory. Earlier, it was explained that the sign ordinance specifies a directory, but it does not accommodate what we're trying to accomplish with this directory. In the sign ordinance, a directory is supposed to be wall mounted. We're proposing a freestanding directory, like the examples that you can see in the exhibit, so that it can include a project map and a project directory listing. So I'm sure you've all seen directories like this. They're freestanding. You can walk all the way around it. And again, the size is so it can be viewed at a distance. So if somebody exits their car, they can find the directory. If it's to get people from building to building. So if it's mounted onto a building, it's not going to serve the purpose for circulation. The height is also to allow visibility. We have requested the height in order to allow flexibility for directional information that could be applied at the top of the sign, and you'll see that in the image on the left and the bottom. That typography needs to be at a height that people can read at a distance, and also the map and the tenant listing needs to be at a legible size. So if there's multiple people using the directory, if somebody's standing in front of the directory, or even somebody's in a wheelchair and they're sitting at a lower height, they need to be able to see the entirety of the map and the directory tenant listing. And finally, the additional height is just to accommodate if there were a sculptural element that went on the top of the post. Some of the variety of the designs we're showing are more monumental. The one in the middle is more of a posted panel style. And again, it's just to maintain the level of visibility that are expected by a more national level of tenants. So that is all I wanted to share. And if you have any more questions, we're happy to answer those.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so again, we'll go for a main motion to start with. Is there a motion on this item?
I move for approval, recommend approval with conditions to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion to recommend approval to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen with conditions by Commissioner Mann. And we have a second by Commissioner Allen. So we will proceed into the individual motions for each of the modifications of standard.
May I ask a question of the staff? Because I know we talked about the shape and everything, you know, and that seems all right. But what about the heights of all the things? I mean, do we have any examples of where we have permitted some of these things and they are at the allowed heights?
Let me just clarify. You're asking if there is any examples of signs that have been approved that are at the approved, like the allowed height?
Yes.
I mean, any signs that have been approved, I mean, that don't have MOSs with them with any project will meet those requirements, those MOS requirements.
I was just trying to think of some examples of where, you know, the freestanding directory signs and things like that. I didn't know about where any of them might be.
Sure. Yeah, I agree with Chelsea. It's hard for me to give you some examples. One, because our building and neighborhood services processes sign permits. So that's where typically those go through. And so when they're approved, it's not something that the planning commission sees or even the planning staff sees. I cannot think of any offhand. I also cannot think of any recent MOS requests for directory signage, but I didn't do research on that. So if you need that information, we can try to get that for you. But if you need it for your decision tonight, I don't know that I can pull that quickly.
Right. That would be something to get as this moves along, you know, and as I say, I was trying to go out and look around for some places, but very difficult.
Chair.
Yes.
But if they do exist, they obviously would meet the sign ordinance, or we would have had to have seen them under modification of standard. Is that not correct?
That is correct. So, as Amy was saying, just to add to that, any sign that is meeting the zoning ordinance, you would never even
right.
know about until
Right.
you
We
saw
would've
it
seen it.
out at a project.
Exactly. The other thing that as we were going over this from the meeting yesterday, obviously I had misinterpreted something that was said, that if we do disagree with a recommendation from staff, I'd always said if we disapproved anything, we had to have a reason. Yesterday, we were told in our meeting that if we disapprove anything that was recommended by staff, we have to have a reason. Am I wrong? Was I wrong by what was said yesterday?
I really do think if you're going to go against staff recommendations, you should say why on the
Right,
record.
that's what we were told yesterday. I just want to be sure of that, yeah. That's what we were told by legal yesterday. Okay, I just want that clarified.
Okay. Okay, so we'll handle these one at a time. The first is modification of standards number 1. That's requesting to allow for irregular shaped signage. Is there a motion
move-
for this item?
I move for approval. To recommend, I move to recommend approval to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen of modification of standard number 1.
I second that.
And Commissioner Mann?
Yes.
Okay, so we have a motion to recommend approval of modification of standards number 1 to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen, made by Commissioner Allen, seconded by Commissioner Mann. Is there any further discussion on MOS number 1? Seeing none by roll call vote, Commissioner Allen,
Aye.
Commissioner Lindsay votes aye, Commissioner Mann,
Yes.
Commissioner Orr,
Aye.
Alderman Peterson,
Yes.
and Commissioner Williamson.
Aye.
The motion passes. Modification of standards number 1 is approved. Okay, modification of standards number 2 is requesting to allow the addition of 4 monument signs and the height increase to 16 feet, 15 feet, 14 feet, and 12 feet for the proposed monument signs with up to 4 sides with a maximum sign area of 325 square feet per side. Is there a motion for modification of standards number 2?
So I'll make a motion, and I'm going to try to make this, my intent is to be consistent with the staff recommendation of allowing for the quantity deviation, height deviation for the signs internal to the site. But the signs on the peripheral meet the requirements for sign area, height, and additional standards for monument signs within the ordinance. So that is my recommendation to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen. So it's approval, it's a limited approval. Is that fair?
But how did you say that? I understand. I think I'm understanding what you're saying, but how did it come out?
And that's consistent with staff language in the paragraph that refers to quantity deviation and height deviation for the signs internal to the site.
Yes.
We require that signs on the periphery meet the requirements for sign area, height, and additional standards for monument signs within the ordinance.
Yes.
Okay, does everybody understand that motion?
Amy's looking confused. You got it? All right.
That's what.
Everything on
I
the
basically
inside,
put this
let them
paragraph-
do.
I put this paragraph in a motion form.
That's right.
Gotcha.
Okay, we have a motion, and made by Commissioner Mann. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
We have a second by Commissioner Williamson. Is there any more discussion?
Please give a reason.
I mean, I'll just say that I think that makes sense if it's internal. You know, it's not out on the road. And that it's quite the site as far as just general size, so.
What I'm struggling with the exterior signage here is, maybe not necessarily with this project, I actually think that signage, the artwork looks nice. I'm concerned about the precedent we set along all of the sites, particularly some of the ones that haven't been developed up and down for others, and I could easily see the next one come up and say, well, you approved this one, and now we have a 16-foot monument sign at every corner down Cool Spring Boulevard, and I think that's what I struggle with this, is the precedent setting.
So that's the reason you were saying about the internal versus the.
The internal, I think, is acceptable. I mean, I actually,
I understand.
I appreciate the internal signage, yeah.
Any other discussion?
Well, I'll have to weigh in. I will be
Okay.
voting no. And part of the reason, because I know that you were saying with the size and direction and all of that, back when Cool Springs, when that sign was approved, we didn't have GPS. And so now if anybody's lost, put it in GPS and they'll take you right to the door. So that part I get. So I will be voting no, and I'll just shut it there. But anyway.
Well, I'd like to say too, and because a number of the exhibits that are presented with this show some of the existing signage off the sites. Signage along Cool Springs Boulevard, signage along Carruthers. And quite honestly, a lot of the existing signage is really tired and old, and some of it is deteriorated and dilapidated. It looks bad.
Yeah, it does. I can
So-
imagine myself. And also,
Okay.
President said, and I'll stop that too. That was the other thing too, is once we start here, we'll be seeing this every month. But anyway, I'm hushing. All right.
Okay. Any further discussion, questions? We'll go by roll call vote. Commissioner Allen?
No.
Commissioner Lindsay votes aye. Commissioner Mann?
Yes?
Commissioner Orr?
No.
Alderman Peterson?
Yes.
And Commissioner Williamson?
Aye. Yes.
So that motion passes 4-2. Modification of standards number 3 is requesting to allow 9 flag signs and to add vinyl and painted aluminum with graphic perforation as an allowed material. Is there a motion on this item?
Move for an approval recommendation of the board, mayor and alderman.
I'll second that.
Okay, so we've got a motion to recommend approval to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen, made by Commissioner Orr and seconded by Commissioner Mann. Is there any further discussion on this item? Seeing none by roll call vote, Commissioner Allen?
Aye.
Commissioner Lindsay votes aye. Commissioner Mann?
Yes?
Commissioner Orr?
Aye.
Alderman Peterson?
Yes.
And Commissioner Williamson?
Aye.
The motion passes. Modification of standards number 4 is requesting to allow 8 convenience signs that are a maximum of 12 feet in height and may have a maximum of 19 square feet per side with internal illumination. Is there a motion for modification of standards number 4?
Can we ask a question before there's a motion?
Sure.
Can you show us which signs were this applies to again?
The convenience signs.
This is the first that they apply to, the convenience signs, are shown here at the top. And then on 23, this is just another example of what those might look like.
Got it.
And these are all internal to the site.
I believe so.
There's a map with a legend. There you go.
Yeah.
So the blue and the pink color are these convenience signs. So they are all, like, you won't be able to see them from Carruthers, but they're along Corporate Center Drive and some along Compass Way.
I'll move for approval. Recommendation to the Board of Mayor and Alderman.
Second.
We have a motion to recommend approval to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen by Commissioner Mann, seconded by Commissioner Orr. Is there any further discussion on this item?
Since I'm going against staff recommendation, my reasoning is that they're all internal. That was very helpful. Thank you, Chelsea. And so I have much less concerns with the height of those signs.
Okay. And I have a question, if I may, to the applicant. This modification of standards, Gary, the modification of standards describes these as being a maximum of 12 feet in height. Are they all 12 feet in height, or is one or two that maximum and the rest are?
They would all be consistently the same height. So we're asking for that maximum in order to include the overall post with the finial on top, if there's a
Okay.
finial as part of the design.
Great, thank you.
Question, it says also internal illumination. But what about that, staff or applicant?
The internal illumination is to accommodate just the lettering. So only the lettering or the tenant name would illuminate.
Our ordinance says external illumination, so staff had to take that into consideration when deciding whether we could support it or not. And based off of what our ordinance said, we didn't have the option to support internal illumination.
And so where's an example of, here's an example of.
So these are the
internal.
convenience signs. So 20 might be a little bit more helpful. It's not going to convey the illumination on the inside, but
I don't think there's any internal illumination examples provided.
No, that's correct. So
There's none in the
like,
package.
that's correct. So the one in the middle on the bottom, in order for those to be internally illuminated, they just have to be increased to like 2 inches for the cabinet width. So because we use LEDs these days, so it's very minimal as far as how it changes the depth or the size of the sign. But as far as visibility, having the internal illumination to the message is critical for visibility, because when only external illumination is allowed, the current sign ordinance requires external illumination because it's required where it's limiting to smaller signs. So if we tried to do external illumination to aim a spotlight at the ground up to the sign, it's just going to be a little bit more intrusive than having more discrete internal illumination for just the copy.
So I'm looking at C0.26, and there's some kind of lifestyle examples there. So that's the internal illumination probably example then.
Right, like at Canyon Crossing on the side of that sign would be internally illuminated. So the only thing that illuminates are just those white letters.
And then it says a maximum of 2 of these to the site.
Yes, that's correct.
Well, you've moved on to directory signs. We're still
Oh.
discussing
No, we still-
convenience
yeah,
signs.
we're convenience.
Correct, okay. Thank you.
It's a lot, I know.
Yeah.
Also, question, some of these are external to the site. They're not all internal. Did you just name off, you named off a street that was not internal? I thought you named off an external.
So it's the, in here, I'll go back to this exhibit here. You might be able to see it better on your computers, but This exhibit shows where they're located. They're the blue, bright blue color and pink. And I was just pointing out that there are a few at that like little cul-de-sac at Corporate Center Drive, and then one along Compass Way. But those are those are internal to the
Okay, I
site.
see.
Yes,
I just
ma'am.
can't get back to that because my mask is up.
Oh, that's right.
Now that I'm looking at the right MOS, I don't know. I think this, in a lot of senses, does make sense to provide a little convenience signs of some sort. For the main reason that some of those adjacent developments along Carruthers, sometimes when you get into them, it's hard to know where you are. And you kind of have to literally pull out your phone in your car, which is not allowed, and find where you are. For that reason, I could see it as a help in certain circumstances. So.
Okay. Any other further discussion? So you have a motion to recommend approval of modification of standards number 4 to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen. There's no further discussion. By roll call vote, Commissioner Allen,
Nay.
Commissioner Lindsay votes aye, Commissioner Mann,
Yes.
Commissioner Orr,
Aye.
Alderman Peterson,
Yes.
and Commissioner Williamson.
Aye.
That motion passes for the approval of modifications of standards number 4 to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen. Modification of standards number 5, requesting to allow a maximum of 2 freestanding directory signs with a maximum of 21 square feet and 9 feet in height. Is there a motion for this item?
I move for a disapproval recommendation to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen.
I second.
So a motion to recommend disapproval of MOS number 5 to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen by Commissioner Orr, seconded by Commissioner Allen. Is there any further discussion on this item?
Chelsea, can you go up and show where those are located, proposed to be located at that map you had again? And
So the directory signs are the green boxes. So, can you
Yeah.
see my?
I can see them.
Okay, so there's gonna be one right here, and then there's gonna be one right here. Again, both internal to the site.
Can you help me understand what the rationale for those locations are?
Yes, those locations are outside of the new freestanding buildings for restaurants. So those are in a pedestrian path that are adjacent to parking and also adjacent to those businesses, so that when people are coming out through the path of travel, they're made aware of everything else that's both in the north and the south parcel.
Got it. Thank you.
And I think there, on one of the exhibits, there is, if you get it, page 26. And that shows it in context on 25. So the building is not built yet. That's what's represented by that dashed white line. But once that building is built, it would be shown as in the diagram.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, great, thanks. Any further discussion? So we have a motion recommending disapproval to BOMA. By roll call vote, Commissioner Allen,
Aye.
Commissioner Lindsay votes aye, Commissioner Mann,
No.
Commissioner Orr,
Aye.
Alderman Peterson,
Yes.
and Commissioner Williamson.
Aye.
That motion passes. MOS number 5 does not pass then. Modification of standards number 6, requesting a reduction in the base rate parking for the uses of restaurant, retail, and hotel. Is there a motion on this item?
Move for approval of the recommendation to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion recommending approval of MOS number 6 to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen, made by Commissioner Mann and seconded by Commissioner Orr. Is there any further discussion on this item?
Well, shared parking is the reason that this seems all right.
On top of, they did an assessment of the site as it stands today, and then some national numbers that they provided as a study. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Other discussion, questions? By roll call vote, Commissioner Allen,
Aye.
Commissioner Lindsay votes aye. Commissioner Mann,
Yes.
Commissioner Orr,
Aye.
Alderman Peterson,
Yes.
and Commissioner Williamson.
Aye.
That motion passes, recommending approval of MOS number 6. Okay, so we're back to our main motion, which is a recommendation of approval to Board of Mayor and Aldermen with the conditions, with each of the separate MOSs. MOS number 1 was recommended approval. For MOS number 1, recommended, MOS number 2 was a little more complicated motion based on the paragraph. And that motion passed. And MOS number 3, a motion that passed, recommending approval to BOMA. MOS number 4, again, was a recommendation of approval to BOMA, and that motion passed, indicating that MOS number 4 was recommended for approval. And then MOS number 5, there was a recommendation of disapproval to BOMA, and that motion passed, indicating a disapproval of MOS number 5. And then MOS number 6 was a recommendation of approval to Board of Mayor and Aldermen, and that motion passed. So we're back to our main motion with those MOSs as voted on. Is there any further discussion, final discussion on the main motion? Seeing none by roll call vote, Commissioner Allen,
Aye.
Commissioner Lindsay votes aye, Commissioner Mann,
Yes.
Commissioner Orr,
Aye.
Alderman Peterson,
Yes.
and Commissioner Williamson.
Aye.
So that motion passes. Thank you, guys.
Appreciate it. Thank you for doing that.
Thank y'all.
Is there any final business? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
We have a motion to adjourn by Commissioner Orr. Is there a second?
Second.
So we have a second by Commissioner Mann. That is not a debatable motion. By roll call, Commissioner Allen,
Aye.
Commissioner Lindsay votes aye. Commissioner Mann,
Yes.
Commissioner Orr,
Aye.
Alderman Peterson,
Yes.
and Commissioner Williamson.
Aye.
That motion passes unanimously. We are adjourned.